Okay, so the homework, let me record this as well. Testing. All right, so the homework for last week was to take this inventory program that was in the book and give like a kind of a simulation of getting 3 random inventory items instead of the same 3 every time. I wanted you to pick between 10 different inventory items, so you could make whatever you want to. And I kind of gave you some hints on how you could do this. And ultimately, the goal was to just modify it so it would print out the 3 things instead of getting the same 3 items every time. The key here was that you needed to use a random number to roll to figure out which of the 10 inventory items you wanted, and then using that random number, pick between the different inventory items that you created. So let's just start with this. Start with a blank project here. And I'm gonna, can you kill the lights, Steven? Thanks. Thank you. All right. So this was the inventory program from last week. It basically introduced the concept of this array of inventory, which was really just an array of strings. And an array, remember, is just a list of things. This right here is kind of the main thing that I wanted you to change, which was right now, this inventory program gives you the same 3 items every time. And I wanted it to be 3 random items instead. So I'm just going to run this. And just like how I like to approach any problem for developing a feature, I like to start off with something simple that I know works. I want to make sure that I understand how to get a dice rolling in here. So if you think back to how we had done the dice rolling before, you can actually open up any of the old chapter problems that we had before, which was back in chapter 2, we had this dice roller. And it required you to do, we're going to include the std lib. So if you remember, rolling dice involves this line here to seed a random number as well as this line here to actually do the random number itself. So you can take all this and you can put it into your program. Hopefully you were able to take this from a previous homework that you had done. A lot of programming involves reusing stuff that you had done in the past. So don't throw away anything that you have done before. So this stuff here is the key, and so in addition you have to make sure that you include these 2 headers at the top, otherwise you won't be able to compile your program. So you need time, you need cstd lib, and the first thing I want to do is I just want to roll some dice. So I'm just going to put this at the very top here. So here I'm seeding a random number generator. This is me rolling a dice, and then this is a number between 1 and 6. I'm just going to roll a number between 1 and 10, and I'm going to see out what this is. And I'm just going to print this out to the screen. So this right here is stuff that we've done before, and I'm just going to print out the random number that it generates every time. Because I don't want to get to the inventory stuff until I can know that I'm getting a random number every time. So I'm picking inventory item number 6. Cool. Number 8. Seems like every time I'm running this, I'm getting something slightly different, which is great. 1. So this is rolling a random number. And the homework said that you should pick 3 inventory items randomly. So the best way to do that is to use a for loop. As we had mentioned, for loops are great for looping over a specific number of times. So here, I need to just figure out, like, hey, I know I want to loop some of this. which part of this do I actually need to loop and which part of it can I leave out. And looking carefully at this code, the parts that I care about are the parts where it rolls a random number as well as printing out the thing that it picked. So if I take all three of these lines and wrap it in a loop, it's going to repeatedly roll a new random number every time through that loop. So if I write a for loop, and remember for loop is made up of an initialization statement, so here I'm going to create a variable called I, initialize it to 0. How many times you want it to loop. This is a conditional expression which says, hey, continue looping as long as this is true. And then the increment expression which tells you what you want to do every time you go through that loop. So if I just do this, this is going to pick 10 random numbers and print them out each to the screen here. So I just create a loop and it's picking 10 different inventory items. So thankfully I don't have to do 10 times, I could just do it 3 times. It's the same idea. So 2, 10, and 7. So most of this work's taken care of now. So I now know I want inventory item number 2, 10, and 7. So it's kind of up to me to figure out what that means. So this is where I suggest that you guys can write either an if statement or a switch statement. I recommend a switch statement in this case just because it's a little bit easier. And if I just take this switch statement like this, I switch based on the die roll. And I'll do it both ways to show you. Case 1, I could print out, what should I say? Inventory item number 1 is a sword. Sure. And then I'll just copy this 10 times. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so I have 10 different statements here. I'm just going to go through and update each of these numbers because I need these numbers to be unique. 9 and 10. And so the second one will be armor, shield, helmet, potion, broadsword, wand, starting equipment, magic ring, club, an axe. So if I just do this, where I just print out based on each specific number what you actually got, and then I run this, it'll do this 3 times over. So every time through this, it'll tell me that, hey, I got a broadsword. Oops, I'm actually printing out the die number too. Got a broadsword, which is number 6, and got 2 swords. So it looks like I didn't delete this stuff. So I will show you guys a trick here. So if we want to ever delete multiple things at once, instead of going through and deleting them all, I just select the things I want to delete it in, and I do this Control-H command to replace what I find here with nothing. And then I just go replace all. And those here actually deleted all those. This is what it was before, this is what it is after. This is me using this find and replace to basically find everything that says die and replace it all. This is a nice way, instead of doing this, like I could go through here and delete this each one by one by hand, but the computer is much better at doing that stuff than I am, so I just select all these things, I type in what I want to find and replace, and I type in nothing here and I replace it all, and it replaces everything here and gets rid of it. And this way here, now it says got a broadsword. So the other thing is that I'm just printing it out. This is actually not the last piece. I wanted you guys to put this stuff in the array. So if you look here, this is where we were putting stuff in the array. And what we can do now is we don't actually need this anymore. We can just delete that. And this right here is where our array is declared. So we have to do that before we use it. So I'm going to move this all the way up to the top here, like so. And then now, wherever I'm doing a cout here, I'm just going to replace this with, oops, I need this one as well at the very top. It's the same thing that I just copied out. And I'll delete that. So this is what I want to do here. And in this case, I don't want to do got a sword. I just want to actually say sword. So I'm going to replace every single instance of this with that. And again, you can use find and replace here if you want to, you can do this. So if you ever select something like this and hit Control H, if you take that piece and replace that with what you want it to say. So I'm just going to select all of these. And see how they all say C out right now? I'm going to replace this pattern here with this thing here. And so replace all of these with inventory items equals shield. And then the final thing I need to delete the : and ENDL. So I can just do this. Replace that with just a semicolon. This makes it so that you can easily replace a lot of things without having to do typing. We could capitalize all these just to be consistent. But find and replace is your friend. It, especially if you do something a lot, find and replace, which is on Control H by default, lets you find something here and then replace it with something else. Cool. And that's it. So now, it's going to tell me I got 969 club broadsword. I traded in the club for a battle axe apparently, and then the rest of them still works as intended. And I can change this as well. Instead of rolling just 10 times, why don't I give myself like 7 inventory items, and it should all work as well. So I give myself 7 inventory items. Looks like I started with armor, axe, magic shield, broadsword, and three shields. Like triple wielding shields.
That's just pure protection.
Yeah. There was once a hero in Overwatch idea that someone had that all he had was 2 shields. He didn't have any weapons, which I thought was a cool idea.
That would be ultimate defense.
Yeah. The shields are huge.
I'm for a character like that, but no one seems to want to make one.
Well, here you go. We got one. Got a guy that has 3 shields. So the majority of this work was really like figuring out where to route the loop, as well as making sure that you use a switch statement. So if we want to use an if-else statement instead, it's pretty similar. If die equals 1, we would do something here. And in this case, it would just be that. So if you wanted to, you could replace this all with an if-else statement, but it's just a lot more typing. I feel like it gives you the same result though. And again here, there's also a way if you wanted to replace, I'm not going to get into that, but you can actually replace, if I selected all these, I can replace all instances of case 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with else if as well. But I'm going to do this. And this is how you do it with an else if as well. You just kind of repeat this pattern. And here again, I'm going to use my replace all. Just replace that. Like so. And then we're just going to update these numbers here. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay. And make sure your braces are correct too. So this should give me the same exact result using an if-else if statement. So it looks like I have a more broad array of items here. And Chris, actually, I'm going to share your method too, because this is actually for posterity for the video. So Chris did it in a way that is a nice and kind of more flexible way without having to write all this code. If you wanted to, you could make a second inventory, or you can make a second array for an inventory pool. And in this case, you could actually just you could create a list ahead of time, a separate array ahead of time, and then assign items to that array. So if you wanted to, you could do something like this, where you could create all your inventory items like this. And so you do this 10 times, like so. And this would be armor, shield, helmet, potion, broadsword 1. Potion, broadsword, wand, magic ring, club axe. Like so. We could delete all of this. And then instead of, you still pick an inventory item, but in this case you say inventory at num items plus plus equals inventory pool at die. And this thing would get you the same result because instead of doing an if-else statement, you create a second array, which you have two arrays. One is basically all the possible items you can get, and another array which is your current inventory. So you can imagine, just like in Diablo, you have an empty inventory to start. You kill a guy, you pick one of these things from the monster that you killed. And if you wanted to, you could create something like this. Let's create 20 items here. And for each of these, do that version. Legendary types. And here, let's see if we get any legendary items this way. It's the same thing, one wand, some legendary items. Because these are items in a pool, you pick from any of the items in a pool. So I got one helmet and a wand.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a ghetto rarity system is to just duplicate a bunch of items like this. So legendary items are a little bit more rare. So it's like legendary armor.
Two is still good.
Yeah.
Better than Destiny.
So see here, you got 21, 26. Those led to 2 legendary.
You gotta put more.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Questions on that? This isn't actually the right way to do rarity, by the way. If you wanted to do rarity like this, we are going to get into what are called structures, because what you really want to do is you want to have an associated rarity with each item, right? You don't actually want to say, you want to actually say, like, how rare is this legendary sword going to be, right? And maybe what you can also do, instead of doing all this, let's just have 10 items, and let's just roll another die that says if it's greater than 10, it actually turns into a legendary version of that item, right? So if we roll another die, legendary, and I'm going to roll a die between 1 and 100, and if the legendary rarity is greater than 90, then we do this, else we do this. So this time, I'm just going to preemptively add legendary here, like so. So now I roll a die here, and if it's greater than 90, I do this version instead of this version. So there's a 10% chance to get a legendary item. And I will add 100 items into the inventory. Legendary blanks, oops, because we don't actually have 100 items here. I'm going to add 10 items here, do 100 items here. And this is without using an inventory pool. Oops. I'm sorry, this is with using an inventory item pool, 10 items. We're giving ourselves 100 inventory slots. And this one here is 10. Let's make sure that I actually did the right thing here. Die.
There's too much legendary.
Yeah, there's too many dies rolling. 1 second here. There's our inventory pool. There's our inventory. Now mine is 4.
I feel like this is really
100. We'll pick 10. Maybe I'm giving myself too many items here. Yeah, I'm giving myself too many items here. Let's just do 10.
scaring the computer.
So, looks like I got no legendaries that time. Let's try this again. No legendary items. Inventory here. Create an inventory pool. Die. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Do this.
See, that's the problem. You gotta play RNGs, man. You gotta like RNGs. Grant me the strength to give me a red eye.
That should never happen. Spend 2, 3 hours.
I'm giving myself 9 items, that's why.
Fuck this game, this pen shit again.
You're on it by this yeah, at least we have like some.
I think I am getting legendaries, which is what's causing it to break here.
If you're weak in defense, you ain't good.
Inventory.
Go from like Grand Theft Auto for months on end, Halo, and then all of a sudden like a game of Halo and then
I'm not really
I did feel that until they started cheating. I was making sure.
I like Word of War. It was always 4. Because I was supposed to source. I was supposed to Counter-Strike source. And like, I don't know, like, I'm not really good at CSGO. At CSGO. I was better at source.
Sources.
Well, like Call of Duty, I always thought it's like you're the best and not your absolute worst.
Yo, like I was playing CSGO, I was just like, holy shit, I'm getting better and all. You got like kills 4 rounds in a row. Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. Last night I came home.
I haven't played CS since 1.6. Huh?
Y'all play, bro. AJ played.
Yeah, Left 4 Dead 2.
Yeah, Left 4 Dead 2.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
It was on sale at Steam. Oh, bro. I gotta show him. Did you go?
Was that?
Yeah, something funky is happening with the program. I'm going to have to look into it more. But the general idea would be that you have this die here. Let's see if we can make it work with just 3. Something is making it loop too many times. We'll do this. My drop rate for legendaries are a little bit too low.
Now it's starting to feel like this.
Yeah.
Or I get nothing for those crazy quests you do.
Wait, Keith.
Hey, what's up?
Your dice,
Legendary broadsword.
between like 1 and 9.
Yeah, that's actually okay here.
So I was having the same issue, and I made that a 9, it stopped like this.
Oh, you're right. This actually here needs to be this. Good call. Looks like I did get 1 legendary broadsword though. It's nice. I rolled 10. So I rolled 10 items. I got 1, 2, 3. I got 2 legendaries and 5 other regular ones based on a 10% legendary drop rate. All right. And even if you wanted to, there's another way you can do this too. Like typically for each item type, you might want a drop percentage also. You don't necessarily want to have every one of these things be the same amount of rarity. So if you wanted to, we could also set it up so that each of these items themselves has a rarity associated with it too. And this would be used by, we're going to get into this very soon, which is the concept of structures, which allows you to pair up two pieces of data together. We talked a little bit about this with objects, where we defined methods and members associated with objects. But here, if I had something like a structure for an item drop, I could set up what's called a structure, which has two pieces of data within it, which is an inventory as well as a drop chance. And if we wanted to, we could set up an array of these in our inventory pool instead. So if I had this item drop, we could set up our inventory pool and we could do something like this. And by setting up a structure, we could set up a drop rate for every single item that we wanted. So if we had a sword and we could have armor, we could actually say swords have a 10% drop rate, armor has 20% drop rate, helmets have a 0.5% drop rate. By setting up a structure, we can pair together different variables into a single one like this. So we can set up a variable name as well as a drop chance associated with that. And then when we're picking them, we can use this drop chance to determine whether we actually got that item or not. So let's dive into a little bit of review of what we did last week to get into this structure. The idea of creating your own variable types as well as using functions and data members that live inside of those. Okay. So I want to review over those two things. So arrays and objects, kind of just like what we did in the homework. Let me restart this recording here.